60% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without going into debt. Not $10,000, not $5,000, $1,000, the cost of a busted alternator, a single ER copay, or a plumber who shows up on a Saturday. And yet, every personal finance guru on the internet keeps yelling about index funds, about maxing out your Roth, about getting into real estate. Meanwhile, most people don't even have the foundation to survive a bad Tuesday in March. So today we're going to talk about the number nobody actually calculates correctly. How much cash you need sitting in a boring, beautiful savings account before you touch a single investment. And that number, for the median American household, is $27,000. Now, before you close this video and say, "Rabbi, I don't have $27,000, stay with me, because I'm going to show you exactly where that number comes from, why it's probably different from what you've heard, and how to actually build toward it without losing your mind or your quality of life. And I promise you, once you understand this math, every other financial decision you make gets radically clearer. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes. You've heard the rule: save 6 months of expenses. Good rule, old rule. But then people do one of two things. Either they calculate 6 months of their gross income, which is way too much cash sitting around doing nothing, or they just sort of guess, throw $2,000 into a savings account, call it an emergency fund, and go back to arguing about Bitcoin on the internet. Neither approach works because neither approach starts with reality. And reality is this. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics 2024 Consumer Expenditure Survey, the average American household spends $6,545 every single month. That's $78,535 a year just to exist. But here's the part people miss. You don't need 6 months of total spending. You need 6 months of essential spending. The stuff you cannot cut. The stuff that keeps the lights on, the roof over your head, and food in your kids' stomachs. So let's do the real math. Housing. That includes rent or mortgage, utilities, homeowners or renters insurance, basic maintenance. The BLS puts the average at $2,189 a month. For some of you in Mississippi, that sounds insane. For anyone watching from New Jersey or the Bay Area, you're laughing because that wouldn't cover your property taxes. But we're working with the national number. Food, and I mean groceries, not the $15 avocado toast or the DoorDash habit you pretend doesn't exist. The average household spends $519 a month on food at home. We're keeping it there. Healthcare. Premiums plus out-of-pocket costs run the average household about $517 a month. And anyone who thinks they can skip this line item has never seen a medical bill arrive like an uninvited guest at a dinner party. Transportation. Getting to work, keeping the car alive, insurance, gas. We trim the average from the BLS figure of $1,110 down to about $800 a month, cutting the new car payment fantasy and just keeping what you need to function. Minimum debt payments. The median household carries auto loans, maybe student debt, maybe a credit card balance. A conservative baseline for minimum required payments is around $480 a month. Add it all up, $2,189, plus $519, plus $517, plus $800, plus $480. That's $4,505 a month in true essential spending. Multiply by 6, $27,030. Rounded down, 27,000. There's a concept in Jewish law called pikuach nefesh, the preservation of life. It's considered so important that it overrides almost every other commandment. You can break Shabbat to save a life. You can eat on Yom Kippur if fasting endangers your health. The principle is simple. Protect existence first, then worry about everything else. Your emergency fund is pikuach nefesh for your financial life. It is the one thing that must come before every other money goal. Before investing, before that vacation, before the kitchen renovation, before the brokerage account. Because without it, one job loss, one medical emergency, one transmission failure, and your entire financial structure collapses. And collapse is not a hypothetical. Bankrate's 2026 Emergency Savings Report found that nearly 1 in 4 Americans, 24%, have zero emergency savings. None. Another 30% have some, but not enough to cover 3 months of expenses. That means more than half the country is essentially one bad month away from financial ruin. Only 27% have enough saved to cover 6 months. That's roughly 1 in 4 people who are actually prepared. Now, why 6 months and not 3? Here's where the data gets uncomfortable. The average job search in the United States now takes about 5 to 6 months. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which puts the average duration of unemployment at nearly 23 weeks as of mid-2025. And that's an average, meaning plenty of people are looking for 7, 8, 9 months. If your emergency fund only covers 3 months and your job search takes 6, you're not just stressed, you're making desperate decisions. You're taking the first offer that comes along, even if it pays 30% less. You're putting groceries on a credit card at 22% interest. You're raiding your retirement account and paying penalties. 3 months of savings isn't a safety net, it's a suggestion. 6 months is the minimum for actual protection. There's a teaching in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, that says, "Who is rich? One who is satisfied with their portion." Now, I love that teaching, but I want to add a footnote that Rabbi Yisrael ben Eliezer probably didn't anticipate. Satisfaction with your portion requires that your portion actually covers your rent. Contentment is a spiritual practice, but it works a lot better when you're not choosing between the electric bill and groceries. The emergency fund is what gives you the breathing room to practice that contentment from a place of stability, not panic. So how do you actually get to 27,000 if you're starting from 0 or close to it? Step 1. Know your real number. I gave you the national average, but your number might be different. Sit down, add up your actual housing cost, your actual grocery bill, your actual healthcare premiums and co-pays, your actual transportation, your actual minimum debt payments. That's your monthly essential baseline. Multiply by 6. That's your target. It might be 22,000. It might be 34,000. But now it's real, and real numbers are the only kind worth chasing. Step 2. Automate before you optimize. The Talmud in Bava Metzia says a person should always divide their wealth into 3 parts: a third in land, a third in commerce, and a third kept liquid. That was portfolio diversification 2,000 years before Harry Markowitz won the Nobel Prize. The principle isn't just about allocation, it's about systematization. Make saving automatic. Set up a direct deposit split so that a fixed percentage of every paycheck goes into a dedicated high-yield savings account before you ever see it. The money you never touch is the money that accumulates. Step 3. Use the right vehicle. As of early 2026, high-yield savings accounts are still paying between 4 and 5% APY. That's not going to make you rich, but it's not nothing. On $27,000, that's over $1,000 a year in interest just for parking your money correctly. Don't leave your emergency fund in a checking account earning 0.01%. That's not being conservative, that's being negligent. There's a difference between keeping cash safe and keeping cash stupid. Step 4. Set milestones, not fantasies. If 27,000 feels overwhelming, break it into layers. Your first target is $1,000. enough to handle most single emergencies without a credit card. Your second target is 1 month of essentials, roughly $4,500. Then 3 months, then the full 6. Each layer is a real upgrade in your financial resilience. Bankrate's data shows that just having $1,000 saved puts you ahead of more than half the country. That's not a brag, that's a tragedy. But it also means progress is more achievable than you think. Step 5. Protect it like it's sacred. Your emergency fund is not a vacation fund. It's not a good deal on a couch fund. It's not a holiday shopping fund. Bankrate found that 27% of Gen Z and millennials who withdrew from their emergency savings last year used the money for vacations or discretionary shopping. That's like using the fire extinguisher to cool your drink. There's an idea in Jewish ethics called Bal Tashchit, do not waste, do not destroy. It was originally about not cutting down fruit trees during wartime, but the rabbis expanded it into a general principle against needless destruction of resources. Raiding your emergency fund for a trip to Cancun is financial Bal Tashchit. Don't do it. Now here's the part where I have to be the rabbi who tells you something you don't want to hear. If you don't have this emergency fund, you are not ready to invest. I know. I can hear the comments already. But Rabbi, the market is up. But compound interest. But time in the market beats timing the market. All true. All irrelevant if you don't have a foundation. Because here's what happens without an emergency fund. The market drops 15% and your car breaks down the same month. You don't have cash, so you sell your investments at a loss to cover the repair. You just turned a temporary market dip into a permanent financial wound. Every dollar of long-term growth you lost, gone. Not because the market failed you, but because you skipped the fundamentals. The personal savings rate in the United States right now is about 4.5%. The long-run historical average is 8.4%. We are saving at barely half the rate our parents and grandparents did. And the gap between what the average household earns, roughly $83,600, and what the average household spends, $78,500, is paper thin. Less than $5,000 a year of breathing room. That's not a margin, that's a rounding error. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Open a high-yield savings account if you don't have one. Set up an automatic transfer, even if it's $50 per paycheck. Calculate your real essential monthly number. Write it down somewhere you'll see it. And start building towards 6 months of that number with the same seriousness you'd bring to any other obligation in your life. There's a concept called hishtadlut. It means doing the work, making the effort, and then trusting the process. It's the idea that the outcome isn't entirely in your hands, but your effort absolutely is. You can't control whether you'll get laid off. You can't control whether the car will die. You can't control the next medical bill. But you can control whether you're prepared for it. And preparation, boring, unglamorous, automatic, consistent preparation, is the single most underrated financial strategy in America today. $27,000. That's the number. It's not exciting. It's not going to trend on social media. Nobody ever went viral for having a fully funded emergency savings account. But I'll tell you what, nobody ever went bankrupt because of one either. Build the foundation first. Everything else comes after.